I didn't notice the night rules on my first day at the hostel. That's not because they were hidden. They were printed on a single white sheet, taped beside the security office door, right at eye level. Anyone walking in after sunset had to pass it. I walked past it at least 4 times that evening. I only noticed it later, when one of the rules was already broken. The hostel was part of a large public college campus. Old buildings, concrete corridors, poor lighting. It wasn't abandoned or run down, just dated. The kind of place that felt quiet even during the day. At night, it felt paused, like the campus itself was holding its breath. I had moved in for a short academic program. 3 months, nothing permanent. The hostel was cheap, close to my classes, and mostly used by students who didn't go home often. People minded their own business. That was the main appeal. The security desk was staffed 24 hours a day, at least that's what the brochure said. In reality, I rarely saw the same guard twice. Shifts rotated constantly. Sometimes the desk was empty for long stretches. My room was on the 3rd floor, Wing C. The hostel had 4 wings, A, B, C, and D. Each wing had 3 floors. That's what the map showed. Wing D was marked differently. No room numbers listed, just a shaded block with a note that read, "Access restricted after 9 p.m." No explanation. I assumed it was under renovation. The first night passed without incident. People talked in the halls, doors opened and closed, someone played music too loudly down the corridor. Normal hostel noise. By midnight, it was quiet. The second night is when I noticed the rules. I came back late from studying at the library, around 11:30 p.m. The security desk light was on, but no one was sitting there. That's when I saw the paper. Night regulations, hostel residence. There were 7 rules. Most of them were standard. No visitors after 10 p.m., no noise in corridors after 11 p.m., no access to Wing D after 9 p.m. Then the tone changed. Residents must remain in their assigned wing between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. That seemed odd. Not a curfew, not lights out, just stay in your wing. Below that, do not respond to knocks on your door between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. unless verified by security. And the last rule, if you hear movement in closed sections of the hostel, report it. Do not investigate. I stood there reading it twice. It wasn't written like a joke. No smiley faces, no warnings in bold red letters, just plain text, calm, official. Still, I laughed it off. Old building, overly cautious administration. Maybe something happened years ago. Colleges are good at overcorrecting. I went up to my room and slept. At 1:17 a.m., someone knocked on my door. It wasn't loud, just 3 soft taps. I checked my phone first. No messages, no missed calls. I stayed still, listening. Another knock. Same rhythm. I got out of bed and walked toward the door before remembering the rule. Do not respond to knocks unless verified by security. I don't know why that line came back to me so clearly. It felt specific, like it was written for that exact moment. I asked through the door who it was. No answer. I stepped back and looked through the peephole. The hallway light was on. Empty corridor. No one standing there. I didn't open the door. The knocking stopped. The next morning, I asked the guard at the desk if security had been doing room checks overnight. He looked confused. He said, "No, we don't do checks that late." I mentioned the knocking. He frowned, then shrugged. Probably another student messing around. I asked about the night rules. He hesitated. He said, "Those are old. Administration hasn't taken them down yet." That didn't explain why they were still being enforced, or why someone knocked at exactly 1:17 a.m. Over the next week, small things started to feel off. People avoided certain hallways at night. Conversations stopped when Wing D was mentioned. If someone brought it up casually, the response was always the same. Just follow the rules. No one explained what would happen if you didn't. One night, around 12:59 a.m., I went to refill my water bottle. The common kitchen was at the end of Wing C. I checked the time because I remembered the rule about staying in your wing after 1 a.m. When I stepped into the hallway, I noticed something strange. The door to Wing D was open. That door was usually locked, heavy metal, keypad access. I had never seen it unlocked after dark. The hallway beyond it was dark, no lights, no sound. I stood there for a moment, water bottle in hand, staring at it. At 1 a.m., the hallway lights flickered once. I turned around and went back to my room without filling the bottle. The next morning, the door was locked again. I started keeping track of the time. Every night, between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., the hostel felt different. Not quieter, just emptier. Footsteps stopped. Elevators didn't move. Even the ambient noise of the building seemed muted. One night, I tested the rule. At 1:30 a.m., I stepped into the hallway and walked toward the stairwell, still within Wing C. Nothing happened. I stood there for a few minutes, listening. No guards came, no alarms, just silence. Then I heard something else. Movement. Not footsteps, more like dragging, slow, distant. It came from below, from the direction of Wing D. I didn't investigate. I went back to my room and locked the door. A few days later, something happened that changed how I saw the place. A student named Aaron lived 2 rooms down from me. Quiet guy, kept to himself. We'd talked a few times in the common area. One morning, his door was open. That wasn't unusual, but the room was empty. Bed stripped, desk cleared, no personal items. By evening, his name was gone from the door list. I asked around. Some people said he transferred. Others said he left suddenly for family reasons. No one seemed sure. That night, at 2:03 a.m., someone knocked on my door again. Same 3 taps. I didn't answer. This time, there was a voice. Low. Calm. Open up. I need to ask you something. It sounded like Aaron. I stepped back from the door. I'm calling security, I said. The voice paused. Then it said, Don't. They already know. I didn't respond. After a few seconds, the voice moved away. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The next morning, I went to the security desk and asked about Aaron. The guard checked the computer. He said, There's no record of him staying here. I told him I knew his room number. He shook his head. That room's been empty all semester. I stood there feeling stupid. I went back to my floor and checked the door. No name, no sign anyone had ever lived there. That's when I started paying closer attention. I noticed certain rooms never had names on them, always the same ones, always closest to Wing D. I also noticed that the night rules paper had been updated. Same font, same paper, but now there was an added line at the bottom. If a resident is listed as unassigned, do not attempt contact. No one announced the change. No one talked about it. That was the first hook. The second came 2 weeks later. I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of footsteps in my room. Not outside, inside. I opened my eyes slowly. The room was dark, but not completely. Moonlight from the window outlined a shape near my desk. Someone was standing there. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The shape didn't move either. After what felt like minutes, it turned and walked toward the door. I heard it unlock. The door opened, then closed. I checked the lock, still engaged. No signs of forced entry. The next morning, I found a piece of paper on my desk. It looked like a printed notice, same format as the night rules. Reminder, residents must remain in assigned areas during restricted hours. No signature, no date, just a reminder. I started documenting everything. Times, sounds, conversations. I asked a staff member privately if anything had happened at the hostel in the past. She lowered her voice. There was an incident, she said, years ago. She wouldn't give details, just that after the incident, certain areas were restricted at night, certain rules were added. People who didn't follow them, she said, didn't stay long. I asked where they went. She didn't answer. The last night I stayed there, the power went out at 12:58 a.m. Emergency lights came on. Red. The Wing D door was open again. This time, there were footsteps coming from it. Multiple. Slow. Uncoordinated. The security desk phone rang. No one answered it. I stayed in my room until morning. When the power came back, the night rules were gone. The paper had been removed. Administration later said it was outdated information and shouldn't have been posted. Wing D is now permanently sealed, according to the website. No mention of why. I still think about those rules, not because they were strange, but because they were specific.
But because they were specific, like someone learned them the hard way, and I went to make sure no one else did.